On September 10, 2025, Utah, one rooftop shot drops Charlie Kirk mid-speech. What was supposed to be just another campus speaking event turned into one of the biggest tragedies. Dozens of guards, 4 posts, and one tiny window where everything fell apart. Here's how security may have failed Charlie Kirk and the receipts that show it. The failure didn't start with the shot. It started with the setup. This wasn't a sealed lecture hall. It was an open quad in the middle of campus, outdoors, public, and surrounded by higher sightlines. That choice built risk into the event. More angles, more approach routes, and no natural cover. That decision was the crack in the foundation. According to the witnesses and early police dispatches, spotted a man dressed in black tactical gear on a rooftop some distance away. And that was exactly the case. Investigators later confirmed it, saying that the fatal shot came from a high-powered rifle from an elevated building overlooking the stage. Charlie wasn't just another speaker. He was a high-profile figure, and people did expect the security and event planners to treat him that way. That meant checking rooftops, blocking elevated lines of sight, and locking down the perimeter so nobody could get into a sniper position. But that's not what happened. Instead, the stage left him exposed to anyone with a rifle and a clear vantage point. This wasn't the shooter's first move. It was the organizer's first failure. Securing high ground isn't an option. It's non-negotiable.
I'm going to be completely honest. When I walked into this courtyard, the first thing that I thought, with everything that's happened in the past decade or few years, the first thing I thought was, I hope they have good security here, because this does not seem like a safe place for Charlie to be giving his message.
And that was just the tip of the iceberg. When a speaker steps on stage, the first thing you would want to look out for is a balcony, a window, or a rooftop with a view. They aren't just views. Instead, they are potential firing lanes. And at Utah Valley University, those angles were wide open. Charlie's stage was placed in the center of campus, surrounded by elevated positions. In tactical terms, that's a bad angle. Also known as the geometry of the space gave anyone above the crowd a clear shot at the podium. And that's exactly what the shooter exploited. And so the question on everyone's mind is, why does that happen? Well, in some cases, it's budget limits, and in some cases, it's trusting the venue. But in Charlie's case, people think the campus was too keen on keeping the event open, casual, and energetic, rather than locked down and intimidating.
Just the layout of the courtyard, that was my initial thought, is that this does not seem very safe.
Even investigators agreed that this was an oversight. Don Mahalik, a retired senior special agent for the U.S. Secret Service, questioned the location of the stage, saying, "The location of the event was in the middle of a college quad, it sounds like, which was surrounded by tall buildings which present line-of-sight issues." Mahalik added, "In my view, in this day and age, you can't not do proper advanced planning for an event, especially an outdoor event, and take into account all the standard security measures for an event." And in Charlie's case, one slight mistake in geometry became a deadly advantage for the attacker.
This is another wake-up call for the security details, whether it's private or the Secret Service. We can't be wrong on any of these events. So, we had 3,000 plus people on the campus watching this rally. Meanwhile, in the background, we had this shooter climb up onto a building, much like Butler, PA, right? And, there's some witness statements that may be coming out where they had seen him kind of moving around on that rooftop. And the crowd was so huge, I think by the time it got to the authorities, that it was too late, right?
That said, security isn't something that you set once and totally forget about later. It has to stay active. The danger comes when people repeat the same routine day after day. That slow erosion is called screening drift. At small events, organizers often stick to the basics: a couple of volunteers at the door, a quick glance into a bag, or a sign saying what's allowed and what's not allowed. And since nothing usually goes wrong, these checks tend to get even looser. And before anyone realizes it, formal security turns into casual habits. That's when threats slip in. And in Charlie's case, that's exactly what happened. There were minimal visible protective measures. The attendants also recalled little to no serious screening of the crowd. Jasmine Martinez, a mother of 5, told ABC News, "We walked in, we were kind of surprised because there was like no security check. They didn't check us for IDs, they didn't pat us down, you just walked in." Justin Hicken, who also attended the event, spoke up about the lack of security, saying, "I just followed the crowd into some of the campus buildings, and once you made your way through the campus buildings, it opens up into a courtyard where the stage or the amphitheater drops down like a pit. And that's not all. Some folks were allowed to enter the premises even without a ticket." That's not the kind of layered screening you'd expect for a high-profile figure. And the result? A wide space that may have looked safe, but wasn't.
This isn't arbitrary. It's meant to cover elevated vantage points, rooftops, hillsides, anywhere a shooter could set up. The position Robinson used was well inside that envelope.
Surprisingly, the cracks didn't end there. Slow radios seemed to be another factor as well. In a crisis, seconds matter most. And nothing eats up seconds faster than broken communication. At a crowded event like Charlie's, radios are supposed to knot every officer and responder into a single web. But here, the system broke down. As soon as the shot was fired, police and security teams were confused. Some reported suspects caught, while others said suspect at large. The officers did correct themselves when they realized they had given out wrong information, but the story kept on changing. Was the suspect arrested? Had they been spotted? Or were they still on the loose?
It's a multi-faceted fluid event, right? Which, we've got to do better on the security, Andy, in terms of being staffed. And for God's sakes, we've got to protect these and secure these rooftops so we don't see this in the future.
That said, this doesn't necessarily mean that the event had bad cops on the job. In fact, it was about a system that wasn't built to run smoothly under pressure. When radios aren't synced and procedures don't align, the flow of information breaks. And in a shooting, those lost seconds can cost lives. Vice President of Administration and Strategic Relations Val Peterson, who is also a Republican state lawmaker, explained the delayed communication to reporters, saying, "In today's world of social media, we have to get that information. We have to assemble that information. We have to verify that information." He continued, "And then, even after all of that, through all the chaos, that information was changing every second. And so we tried to put out the most accurate information that we could. We will review our communications protocols to see if there's a way for us to speed up that information that goes out. But at the same time, we've also got to make sure that we're current with what the current situation is." Then there's the question of routes. In security language, a route isn't just how a VIP enters or exits. It's also how an attacker finds their position. A rooftop isn't just a rooftop. Neither is a stairwell nor a side door. If left open, it's an open route. According to reports, the shooter had clear access to a high vantage point on campus, the spot used to fire the fatal shot. Sure, students probably wander through these corridors and stairwells every hour of the day. But when you are bringing in a controversial figure, those same routes must be tackled as temporary threats. And that includes blocking access, sweeping rooftops, and even locking the utility stairwell. Post-incident coverage revealed that the attacker easily reached the rooftop where he set up his shot. The exit had the same story. In the midst of the chaos, parts of the plan worked. The crowd evacuated. First responders arrived. Witnesses gave police the leads they needed. Those were wins. But for Charlie, the protection failed. There was no layered escape, no shielded path off stage, no rapid, pre-planned exit. That's a classic mistake. Organizers often focus so much on making an event look open and exciting that they forget the single most important thing: protecting the speaker when everything goes wrong. When a sniper takes their shot, sometimes the only chance left is a clean, protected exit. In this case, that plan either didn't exist or wasn't executed. So what's the fix? Well, security experts will tell you that in a single breath. Closed sightlines, hardening the perimeter, and integrating communications. The most important thing is to treat a high-profile speaker as a high-threat event. In the end, the evidence pointed to small choices that could have closed the gap entirely. Strengthening the security posts so that no angle was left uncovered, increasing the screening the moment the entry line seams swelled, mirroring every radio call to every zone so that no one operated blind, and blocking pathways that lead to vulnerable positions. These choices aren't about politics or opinion. Instead, they are basic security measures that are written into the professional playbook.
This was a textbook elevated threat, a rooftop with direct line of sight. A proper advance would have flagged roof access, locked it down, posted personnel, or at least monitored it with tech.
The timestamps don't lie, too. Dispatch logs and surveillance video show when and where these failures happened.